It's Melee time. Some wild outcomes in the knockout round have left us with a very interesting Final Four. 3 of these teams have never won a tournament before, so there's a possibility we get to witness history. You don't want to miss out. Some red-hot teams following some crazy storylines are clashing in a double elimination bracket. Combine a few franchises who you weren't expecting to be here, with 3 main tanks having the chance to beat their former teams, and you have what should be a pretty good time, and anything is possible. For whatever reason, the league decided to have the festivities start on Thursday. The times are also unusual since the league is clearly trying to use a time that is good for both the NA and Asian audience. Apologies in advance for my EU peeps. With that in mind, be sure to check out when the times are for you. It's very important. On that note, let's get into my predictions and overview of the bracket so you know exactly who to not pick. Let's begin with the Shanghai Dragons versus the Florida Mayhem. I'll be straight up honest with you all. On paper, this is Shanghai all day, every day. But if Florida can dominate in the fashion they did against Washington, anything is possible. It's really a question of if they as well as the Dragons keep up their momentum. Can the Mayhem and or Dragons pull off some more Melee magic? I would say the Dragons have a great chance of doing so after defeating a top team in Philly, which I find a bit more impressive than beating a Washington team who was struggling on rush in that specific game. And the Dragons have proven they're much better on it in recent weeks. And if Florida can't gain the advantage there, it could be a pretty tough battle. I would say their dive is relatively even, and the Ashe Tracer battle is closer than you might think. A big factor that could decide this contest is the difference in styles, though. The Mayhem love Double Bubble, while Shanghai refuses to touch it. What gets more value, the Diva or the Zarya? Void versus Gargoyle could be a major deciding factor. If you've been following the channel for a while, you already know that I favor Void no matter what, and something I am definitely going to be looking at also besides that is the support matchup. Given how well Gangnamjin and Izayaki have been performing, it could go either way. But I for one believe Izayaki and Lee Jae-gon have been on the greater hot streak as of late. I have preferred their play slightly more. With all of that in mind, I don't see a clear-cut way in which Florida dominates unless they get a lot of value out of the Zarya and OG has another ridiculous performance. It's not to say that they have no chance, I'm not saying that at all, I'm just saying that it could be an uphill battle. The Dragons have finally gotten into rhythm apparently, and I simply find them more trustworthy given the history. They've had some close calls as of late, but they've been coming out on top, and historically they're a lot more clutch than Florida, who have never won anything, I must remind you. Yeah, times can change, but why risk it? I love the Mayhem, but I'm going 3-1 Dragons. People are going to yell at me and say they beat Washington and they beat Philly in a similar situation last year, but it's a matter of consistency. That's what stops me in my tracks. They've shown they're capable of pushing good teams to their limits, but the wins against these teams do not come with regularity. The Mayhem are heading into this feeling confident, but they're going up against a team who probably will not struggle with the meta that much. You guys remember those few occasions last year where Florida would push the shock in a tight series, but then get outplayed and outcoached down the stretch, right? That's kind of how I see this one going too. To decide who's going to be playing the Dragons in the next round will be the Hunters versus the Fuel. Now, of course, there's no guarantee here, but on paper, this game could be insane. Arguably the 2 most unique teams style-wise in the league are going head-to-head. How will the Hunters handle weirdness? They're the ones who usually dish it out, so this is going to be a different change of pace. The big aspect of this game we have to think about is the Pharah. Not to keep bringing this up, but Dallas do not have a true McCree or Ashe player to deal with Jinmu. They'll have to get creative to counter it, and that's what makes this contest interesting. Chengdu are likely going to roll out with Pharah, you'd have to imagine, at least on control. So what is the Fuel's plan? On paper, there's reason to feel concerned, but Dallas definitely do have options to counter it. They've gotten this far without a true hit skin, so what's stopping them now? In my opinion, they have 3 choices that could work out. One, and this one feels the most optimal to me, is that they run Doha on the Echo to harass Jinmu in the sky, while Sparker pressures Leave on the Tracer. The second thing they could try and do is run a Pharah of their own. I wouldn't recommend this since Leave could be a problem if they do this, but you never know, they might be very confident in Sparkle's Pharah. The final thing they could try and do is just not prioritize the Pharah. Instead, they could hard pressure the other members of Chengdu with a quick and decisive tempo. It goes without saying that this is a lot easier said than done. Chengdu aren't a normal team by any stretch of the imagination, and they very well could gain their own advantages through superior Wrecking Ball and double sniper play. Like I said, on paper, this could be very good. Chengdu have consistently been great, but Dallas are playing at the top of their game. I'm pretty torn here. It could quickly become a disaster for the Fuel, but right now I am on the hype train. And what I'm hoping delivers as a really good match, I have the Fuel winning 3-2. I don't really have any legit reason for picking them though. Like I said, I'm kind of just on the hype train and I believe in them. I have a good feeling. It feels to me like they figured something out. They played so incredibly clean last week, and I just don't feel like going against that. It's mostly just a gut feeling though. I'm trusting in the Fuel to counter Chengdu's Pharah and Sniper comps through their superior team play and heroics. I believe in Fearless and Fielder to run wild against their matchups. Gaga and Monk have been great, but those boys on Dallas are playing at a different level right now. They've elevated their game to the point where I don't believe they're going to keep pace. Now let's go over the what-ifs of my bracket. If my predictions were to somehow, some way hold up, then the Dallas Fuel will play the Shanghai Dragons in the winners finals, and what a story that would be. Fearless versus his former team with a chance to go on to the final round of this tournament. This time around, Dallas likely won't have to worry about Pharah so much. I mean, the Dragons do like running Fleta on that character occasionally, but I don't really think you have to worry about it too much, and even if they do play it, if they could counter Jinmu, they could definitely counter Fleta. Now they face a different problem though, in my opinion. They're playing an all-around scary team who have been clutch in tournament scenarios many times. But again, I'm giving Dallas a chance here. Lee Jae-gon and Lip could give them some serious problems. But in return, the Fuel have some good things of their own going for them. Fearless outmatches Fate in my opinion, and Fielder has been on a similar trajectory to Izayaki, I think maybe even slightly better given last week, but it's pretty close. Something else that could be promising for them is flex DPS. More specifically in the Tracer battle, because Fleta has been harassing enemy backlines big time, but has also been getting picked a fair bit, and I think that Sparkle might be able to use that to his advantage, because Fleta is more of a team-oriented Tracer, so if Sparkle harasses him a lot, then it could totally throw him out of rhythm. If this was a few weeks ago, I'd give Dallas no chance, but things have changed. They low-key have a shot, but I feel their dominant streak is bound to come to an end at some point in this tournament. They're not going to go undefeated. The Dragons aren't one to feel forced into matching their opponents. They play their own game, and they'll appropriately plan for Dallas as they go on to win this series in 5 maps. This will be a great challenge for sure. The Dragons have never really faced a team like this yet this year. The Fuel could give them trouble no matter how good the game plan is, but I foresee Fleta in particular having a really good performance. On Tracer, it could be pretty even, but I think he could give Dallas a lot of problems on things like Mei or Echo, and I would not be surprised if Lee Jae-gon also outplays his opposition. He gets more value out of the time he spends alive than Jexay, I feel, and that goes for both Brigitte and Lucio. If Lee Jae-gon does get caught out, he usually does something to make it worth the trade-off, at least most of the time. I don't get that feeling as much with Jexay, despite being a bit more disciplined and less risky. Either way, this too could be a really good game that we can only hope ends up happening. On the side of my what-if losers bracket, the Mayhem would play the Chengdu Hunters. This one might be good as well. I'm pretty sure both teams are just happy to be here, so you know for a fact that they're going to leave it all out there. I want to straight up give the advantage to Chengdu here, but I really don't think it's that simple. It's not like I can get away with saying Gaga has the clear edge over OG right now. He played so well against Mag, who is of a similar skill level to Gaga, so it simply would not feel right to me. He probably could hold his own on both Winston and Ryan. The only real problem would be Wrecking Ball in my opinion, because that is the one place where Florida may have trouble. But I mean, besides that, they're in pretty good shape. Yaki and BQB are a great matchup for the Chengdu DPS. They can counter the Tracer, Ashe, Echo, and Pharah on their side. Not to mention that I very much prefer Gargoyle, Gaenumjin, and Slime over their counterparts. So in a way, it might make sense to just straight up go with Florida over Chengdu. But that's what the Hunters want me to think. I don't know if I sound crazy here by saying this, but this literally happens all the time. It feels like the Hunters should lose, so I go against them. But then I wake up in the morning and see the score and I regret everything. I don't give them enough credit, so they make me eat my words by absolutely destroying a team that I think would give them a hard time or beat them. It's been happening for 2+ years now. Last week I finally decided to trust them and they repaid me handsomely for it, so why not go with them at least once during this tournament? There's basically no logic behind this pick whatsoever, and I would not be surprised in the slightest if the Mayhem won. But I have the Hunters winning 3-2 right now. Someone is not going to win a game in this thing, and I feel that Florida is the most likely candidate. Because again, I don't entirely trust them. Consistently beating top-notch opponents is not something they're known for. It feels more to me like they usually only beat the top teams when they can abuse the meta and they're not on equal footing for whatever the reason, and that ain't gonna work here. All 3 of their potential opponents have their own ways to deal with things. Plus, Chengdu's weird style might not be something they can entirely handle. They certainly could go down swinging, but Florida needs to pull off a few more feats before I'm ready to consistently pick them in these types of major games. And that leaves us yet again with Chengdu versus Dallas, this time in the losers finals. We've already discussed this matchup, so we might as well just pick a winner. That's all we really have to do. Since these two already got the opportunity to learn about each other, there shouldn't be any surprises on the table. And if that's the case, this one might not be as close no matter who ends up winning. But again, I'm sticking on the hype train. I have the Fuel beating the Hunters 3-1. Again, I'm mostly going off gut feelings, but now that the Fuel know them better, they'll have a plan that gets cleanly executed. Plus, their defeat against Shanghai is going to get them mad, and an angry Dallas team playing at this level is not something you want to run into. Chengdu will try their best to abuse Wrecking Ball, Sniper Stuff, and maybe Pharah, but Dallas will be prepared. They've gotten this far by defying the odds and staying competitive, so there's no way they stop now. I'm a believer. The Dallas Miracle Run is not going to end. This team has something to prove. Not to mention, Fearless wants to take down his former team probably for the sake of pride. It's not something I say often, but let's go Dallas. They can do this. I know they can. And that leaves us with the May Melee Finals, Dragons vs. Fuel Part 2. The salty runback of the century. The Fuel have a chance to pull off history. Their first ever tournament win or first place finish of any kind. How wild would that be? I'm sure Fuel fans across the world would breathe one massive sigh of relief. You haven't been this close to anything like this since Stage 4 of 2018. This is without a shot of a doubt the best team in franchise history, and they're playing at the top of their game. But can they climb over this final obstacle standing in their way? They're playing the Dragons, so I've grown accustomed to being in this exact situation, and I'd be lying to you if I said I was not worried. But if there's one thing I have learned about the Fuel in these last 3 weeks, it's that they don't make the same mistake twice. They aren't like any of their past iterations. This team is comprised of winners. I talk about the Dragons like they're the only ones, but it's not true. We can't forget that many of the Dallas players have won themselves. Fearless did it on this Dragons team after all, time after time for that matter. Then Sparkle, Fielder, and Hanbin all did it on Paris. One thing these four have in common is that they become heroes when the stakes are at their highest. These guys know what to do. It's basically in their DNA to come up big. All they have to do is make it into a tournament and boom, they become alive. So what if the Dragons are the stronger team on paper? So what if they're a bit more versatile? I said that about the Shock and the Outlaws, but look what happened to them. Say what you will about those teams maybe not playing the best or them not preparing fully for Dallas, but you can't take away how clean the Fuel played in both of those contests. You can't do it. They demonstrated some of the cleanest team play I have seen in a long time, and I am not going against that right now. In my opinion, they are destined to go on the next hot streak miracle run of this league. I feel like it would be justice for this to happen, because it happens all the time in sports where like a fallen comrade goes down, a team encounters adversity, but then they win. Remember last year, for all my basketball fans, when the Lakers won the title after Kobe's death? It kind of feels like that in a way. Obviously, Exy didn't die or anything like that, but it's kind of like a fallen comrade, and they're going to do it for him. They will be the next Season 1 London or Stage 3 Season 2 Shanghai. There's a good chance I end up regretting this decision, but I am picking the Dallas Fuel to defeat the Shanghai Dragons 4-3 and win the May Melee tournament. Keep in mind that I am assuming the league stays with tradition and has the finals be set to the first of 4. If it's first to 3, then it's going to be 3-2 Dallas, but I think either way you get the point. I am picking Dallas in a close game no matter what. After last weekend, I am totally boomed, so you know what? I might as well get a little crazy here. I tend to play these brackets very safe, and every single time it ends up being a disaster, so you know what? Screw it. I'm going with heart over head. Dallas won me over with how they played last week. They can handle this. For once in my life, I can say confidently that I believe in them. I'm calling it now. Fearless will have the game of his life. He's going to want this more than anybody else. If he can smack around Smurf, Super, and Janggu, he could surely do the same to Fate. Like I said, this team with the exception of Jexay is used to being extremely clutch in high-pressure environments. Shanghai are really good, but they've proven they aren't invincible this year. Between the unique style of Dallas, their superstars, and their exceptional team play, they will push the Dragons to their limits. The chess match between Rush and Moon is going to be epic. No matter what happens, I hope this is the finals we get. It would be so poetic. It would be a storybook ending to an absurdly entertaining start to the league's 4th season. And on that note, that basically wraps up my predictions for this tournament. Apologies for maybe not being as technical or analytical as you might have seen in previous weeks, because like I said before, I'm kind of mentally boomed right now. Nothing makes any sense right now. Florida and Dallas being here has me completely shook, so might as well not overthink it and just go with whatever's on my mind. But now I turn it over to you. What are your predictions for this tournament? Do you believe in the Dallas Fuel like I do, or is somebody else taking this thing home? Leave a comment down below, and let's get this discussion going. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.